In this lesson, we will review the accessibility checker. The accessibility checker examines the document to see if it meets basic accessibility requirements. Here, I have a 4-page document open, and I'd like to check it for accessibility. I could come up to Tools to begin this, and at the bottom, I see Accessibility. I also have accessibility down here already, so I'll click on accessibility and I see the accessibility tools on the right hand side. I'm going to choose full check. This starts the accessibility checker and opens up the accessibility checker options dialog. The checker will generate a report, and I can have this report attached to the document itself. By default, I'm going to check the whole document, but I could just check by page. It's going to go ahead and check all the categories out here, but I could define, instead of checking the whole document, I could just check the content of a page, forms, tables, and lists, or alternative text and headings that may exist or may be needed. I'm going to choose the whole document. You can refine the components of a given category by checking or unchecking these boxes. If I were to choose alternative text and headings, I can adjust exactly what I want to search for and check. Forms and tables, I get a whole nother set of settings here, page content as well. I'm going to go ahead and just stay with document and leave these all checked. I could clear them all, I could check them all, or check them or uncheck them individually. To start, I'm going to come down here and choose Start Checking. And it generates the accessibility notes over here on the left-hand side in the little pane under Navigation. I see the document itself has 4 issues. There's an alternative text issue and there's a heading issue. If I click the plus sign, I can expand to see what the issues are for each of these sections. I'm going to start with the 4 issues in my document. It tells me initially that it's wondering about the logical reading order, needs a manual check. You can right-click these and choose to pass them or fail them or skip the rule if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and just choose pass. Let's say I've gone ahead and looked it over. The primary language failed. There is no dialogue here inside of this document for the primary language. I can right-click this and fix this, and I can choose whatever language I'd like. I'm going to go ahead and stick with English, click OK, and now the primary language is passed. I have a title here. There is no internal title. It's not the file name, but it's the title that would show up inside the document. It would be read. I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this and choose Fix, and it's going to come out here and choose Title. Let me just show you where this is. If I go up under File, Properties, you can see under Description, these are the 4 areas we're going to deal with, and they're completely empty here. So I'm going to right-click this, choose Fix, and I am going to just uncheck these and put in some dummy text here. So I've just gone ahead and filled these in. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and now the title has passed. And sure enough, if I come out here and check my file properties, you can see that all this information has been entered up here automatically for me from the dialog that I just filled out. Comes out, tells me it has a little interest in this color contrast. It needs a manual check. I wonder what that means. I'm going to right-click this and come up and choose Explain, and it will fire up the web and bring me to a help page from Adobe that talks about color contrast. And it tells me right at the top here that it's wondering if the color scheme would make it hard for people who are colorblind to read the document. And then it comes down and talks to me about how I can go ahead and fix this manually, which is really nice. It's very quick, and I can get some quick information out of here like this. I'm just going to come down, right-click, and say Pass. Next, there's an issue under alternative text. I'll go ahead and click the plus sign to open that up, and I can see that figures and alternate text has failed. I'm going to go ahead and click the plus sign to open that up. There's several figures out here. Now, probably what's going on here is we've got this thing going on up at the top with a little logo, and also this logo down at the bottom, and I have 4 pages here, so I'm betting that 8 of these issues are because of these graphics that have no bearing on accessibility. They're just for they're just Hollywood. They're just for looks. So to try and fix these, I'm going to come up and right-click and choose Fix. And then it takes me right to the image, and sure enough, here's the graphic up here at the top. So I'm going to just say this is decorative figure. And down here we've got some sort of a little artifact down here at the bottom. I'm going to say that's a decorative figure. And then up at the top again, I'm going to say that's a decorative figure. Click next, something else there. And then we've got something out here. I'm not sure if it's pointing at the chart or not. I'm just going to say that's a decorative figure. And then I'm sure down here at the bottom, it says generating report, but I'm sure it's grabbing that graphic down there at the bottom. Again, one more time, and one more time. And I'll click Save and Close, and now it looks like it's fixed these issues for the most part. Looks like I've got one more. I'm going to go ahead and click that guy, click on Save and Close, and now I've fixed my issues out here. If I did have a graphic or a photograph or something, I could come out there and enter some alternative text for the graphic. Likewise, you could also come out here, select the graphic, and choose alternative text on the right hand side. You don't always have to use this tool on the left to get there. Finally, I've got one more here. Other elements. So ultimately what we want to make sure is that every element on the page that isn't text has alternate text combining it for the description of the content of the document. This page has a lot of graphics that don't pertain to the actual working part of the document. So I'm just going to go out and check these and see what's going on. As I go through and I click on these, I can see what it's selecting up here. So I can just go through and say skip rule on these guys. And I would just go through and fix all of these up. So I would just go through and manually check to see exactly what it's pulling in. Also, you can see if I click on some of these, it's grabbing little components of these graphics, which you might want to go ahead and put in alternative text. But a better way to work with this is to take the whole graphic itself and combine it into one so it's not in separate pieces, and then that graphic describe the whole chart itself, describe what it is and what the percentages are, and you put that whole thing in an alternate text instead of describing each little piece in its own alternate text. It could be very confusing. So that's what I would do, is group all these together in a separate program and then come back and just give it one alternate text to label for the whole graphic. Looks like I have one more appropriate nesting. Come down here, click on element 1, and you can see that it highlights this guy up here at the top, market share US. There's something it doesn't like about this. Appropriate nesting is just how paragraphs are nested underneath each other. So what I can do is, if this looks okay the way it is, and again this goes back to combining this all into one graphic to take care of this problem, I would just come out, right click this guy and say show tags in panel and see what's going on with this tag. Okay, this is a heading 5 tag and market share is underneath. What I'm going to do is just grab this guy and nest it right underneath market share so they're at the same level, and I'm just going to take this tag out by right clicking it and choosing delete tag and then closing this down. And now when I go back to my accessibility checker and I check again, I can skip the rule because I've gone ahead and fixed it. So I've gone through, I've looked over the issues and made my manual changes, and hopefully now this document is, if not there, it's pretty close to meeting accessibility requirements.